It was the height of the harvest season in the year 1150. In the small, quiet village of Woolpit, England, the peasants were working the fields just as their ancestors had for centuries. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and cut wheat. Everything was ordinary, until a piercing cry shattered the afternoon routine. Near the edge of the woods, deep within one of the massive wolf pits dug to trap predators, something was moving. The villagers approached cautiously, pitchforks raised, expecting to find a trapped beast. Instead, they found two children, a boy and a girl. They were clutching each other, weeping in terror, and speaking a language no one had ever heard. But it wasn't their words that made the villagers gasp. It was their skin. From head to toe, the children were a striking, vibrant shade of green. The confused villagers pulled the trembling siblings from the pit. They wore clothes made of a strange, unfamiliar fabric, sleek, dark, and utterly alien to the rough wool of medieval England. They were taken to the home of the local landowner, Sir Richard de Caen. The children were clearly starving, their ribs pressed against their strange clothing, and their eyes were hollow with exhaustion. Yet, when Sir Richard offered them food, they pushed it away. They refused the freshly baked bread. They wept at the sight of cooked meats. For days, they took nothing but water, fading closer and closer to death. Sir Richard was a man of science and faith, but nothing in his texts could explain what sat at his kitchen table. Then, a villager brought a batch of raw beans into the house. The moment the children saw the green pods, they erupted with excitement. They frantically grabbed the stalks, but instead of opening the pods, they began tearing at the stalks themselves, searching for food. When the villagers opened the pods and showed them the beans inside, the children ate them raw, with a desperate, ravenous hunger. For months, they would eat absolutely nothing else. As the seasons changed, the children slowly adapted to their new life. But tragedy struck. The boy, who was younger, grew increasingly sickly and lethargic. Despite the villagers' best efforts, he succumbed to an unknown illness and died, leaving his sister entirely alone in a world she didn't understand. Grief-stricken but resilient, the young girl began to eat other foods. Then a bizarre transformation occurred. The green hue over time faded from her skin, revealing a completely normal complexion. She was baptized, integrated into the community, and eventually learned to speak fluent English. Finally, Sir Richard could ask the questions that had haunted the village for years. Who were they, and where did they come from? Her answer only deepened the mystery. She said they came from a place called St. Martin's Land. In her world, there was no sun. Instead, the entire realm existed in a state of perpetual, luminous twilight, glowing like the moments just after a sunset. She claimed that across a massive, shimmering river, they could see another country, a land that was bright, sunny, and golden. But they could never reach it. How did two children from a twilight realm end up in a Suffolk wolf pit? The girl explained that on the day they disappeared, they were tending to their father's cattle in the twilight fields. They followed the herd into a massive cavern, chasing a stray animal. As they walked deeper into the earth, a strange, overwhelming sound began to echo through the caverns, a loud, rhythmic chiming that entranced them. Today, historians believe they were hearing the church bells of Bury St. Edmund's Abbey. Mesmerized by the sound, the children wandered through the dark tunnels for hours. Suddenly, they stepped out of the cavern, but they weren't in St. Martin's Land anymore. They were blasted by an unbearable, blinding light and suffocating heat, the midday English sun. They were blasted by the glare. They tried to run back to the cave, but fell heat, the midday English sun. Terrified, disoriented, and blinded by the glare, they tried to run back to the cave, but fell into the wolf pit, trapped until the villagers found them. For centuries, this story was treated as a fairy tale. But what if it wasn't a myth? What if the green children of Woolpit were entirely real? And their story was just distorted by a massive cultural misunderstanding? Let's look at the historical reality of 1150. England was tearing itself apart in a brutal civil war known as the Anarchy. King Stephen had brought over thousands of Flemish mercenaries to the fight. Many of these Flemish settlers lived nearby. Medical historians argue that the children weren't from another planet, they were lost Flemish orphans. Their parents were likely slaughtered in a nearby battle. The children fled into the woods, wandering for weeks without proper food. This brings us to their green skin. There is a very real medical condition known as chlorosis, or green sickness. It is a severe form of iron deficiency anemia caused by extreme malnutrition. It literally tints the human skin a distinct greenish-yellow hue. Once the girl came to the village and began eating a balanced diet rich in iron, the anemia was cured, and her green skin vanished. Furthermore, the unknown language wasn't alien, it was just Flemish, a language the rural English peasants of Woolpit had never heard before. The girl grew up, took the name Agnes, and eventually married a royal official from the nearby town of King's Lynn. She outlived the rest of her days as an ordinary English woman, carrying a secret that a small village would talk about for 1,000 years. Did Agnes and her brother truly slip through a portal from a parallel universe beneath our feet? Or were they just two traumatized, starving orphans of war, whose tragic reality was transformed into a local legend? The village of Woolpit still bears the children on its official town sign to this day, keeping the mystery alive. What do you think happened to the green children? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more dark history mysteries.